guys, I'm going to talk to you today about 2 things that you should avoid doing at all costs when you are writing. So we are currently talking about paragraphs and how to get your paragraphs to be better and clearer. So in the previous video that you would have watched, or in the other video that you will watch, I talk about articles a and the, a way that you can check to make sure that you're using the right articles, and also just like the little theory behind it and how you can see it from like a Korean perspective and an English perspective. Because in both languages you need indicators to tell you what you're talking about, and it exists in Korean as well as in English. Alright, now this time I'm going to talk to you about 2 things that you need to avoid doing. The first one will be verbosity, and the other one will be redundancy, or just being redundant, right? So we're going to start with verbosity. So I have a sentence example here. Boris acted in a thoughtful manner. Boris acted thoughtfully. Let's count how many words are we using, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 words. 1, 2, 3. Alright, now I just want you to get that in your mind, because I think I'm like this. I'm definitely like this. Rather than being like this, I'm always like this. I'm long-winded. Nobody likes long-windedness, you know? Especially when the video is really long and all you're watching is somebody, you know, just talking. What does that tell you? The person doesn't know what to say. Alright? I'm letting you in on my weakness, on my secret. Now you can officially bully me, because now you know I don't always know what to say, and I just put in things just to make the time go, okay? But here we are. This is what happens with a lot of people, is that instead of saying something concisely, okay, instead of kissing, kiss. Keeping it super simple, what we do is we make it long, right? Which we're saying the same thing in both sentences, but this is more direct, this is more clear, whereas this is a little bit more long-winded, and it takes more time. Now this affects my students particularly a lot, because they are going to be elementary school teachers. And I always say it. I say it again and again and again. When you are speaking to elementary students, kiss it. When you're giving your instructions or you're teaching vocabulary, kiss it. Why? Because sometimes teachers just use so many words, and they use really difficult words unnecessary when they can say something really simply. For example, here's the situation. You want the students to make a group. Look at that. You know what? If somebody has a better idea of how you rub the board without it going crazily smudging, I would love it. I'm like working with this. Somebody tell me if you've ever used this. Let me do it like the YouTubers do. Oh my gosh. If you've ever used this, it doesn't work. I've used it and then it leaves me like this, and then I have to like spray it. It's just so long. Anyways, verbosity. Okay, so usually students would say something along the lines like this, okay? I want you to find 4 friends and work together. Alright? Instead of saying make groups of 4. Concise, direct, to the point. All right, let's count how many words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 words. Okay, compared to 1, 2, 3, 4 words. Right? Verbosity. All right. Most of the students are comfortable here. I want you to come together, make a group, and come and make a team, and then sit down with your partners. Students don't need any of that, because most of the time they don't even understand what you're saying. So when you're using classroom English expressions, you want to keep them short, concise. Now, the best way to do that is just learn classroom English. As you go along, learn classroom English. Learn to keep your sentences short. One recommendation that I would give is that for like maybe the 3rd and 4th grade, keep your sentences short. 4 to 5 words in a sentence is a good sentence for 4th and 3rd grade. You can bring it up for 5th and 6th, but you're not going crazy. You're keeping it short and simple and concise. You're getting the words there. Now I always have a copy of Classroom English expressions, but they're really helpful. Actually having a list of expressions that you can have are really useful, because these ones are clear and they've been, the person who wrote them down has taken the time to study and choose the specific words that are, good for your students, good for your particular audience. So that's something that you need to keep into mind. Now, if I was talking to a bunch of educators or higher professionals, or whenever you read a journal or some really thick educational book, they speak long-winded, but most times people just want to get straight to the point and clear it out. So verbosity is using so many words when you can just keep the things simple. Redundant or redundancy, it's basically using the same words together, right? You're saying the same thing, basically. Heavier in weight is saying the same thing as heavier, right? You don't need the in weight. It's redundant. It's not useful to say it. The person will understand what you're saying if you just say heavier. You don't have to say in weight. Darker in color. Already the word darker refers to the color, so you don't need to say darker in color. And this brings me on to one other common mistake. Let me see if I can find it in my book here. Is students sometimes would say sentences such as, my favorite clothes are pink color. Pink is already a color. It's redundant to say pink color when you can just say my favorite clothes are pink, and the person will fully well understand that. Another thing that some students may say, out of all the colors, the color black is my least favorite. Black is a color. You don't need to say the color black, because I already know that black is a color. So you can just say, out of all the colors, black is my least favorite. So those are two things that you can do to help you be more clear and more direct. All right, so let's take a look at it in a story. I'm gonna read out the story and we're gonna take a look at it. So here we have story of Friday the 13th, and what I want you to pay close attention to is to the verbose and also to the redundant expressions. Can you hear it? Train your ear to be able to hear it. All right, here we go. It was Friday and I was looking forward to the weekend, the time when I could relax. Despite some grey clouds in the sky, I left my umbrella and raincoat at home. Because of a sudden thunderstorm, there was a bad accident on the road, and that was the reason why I arrived late for work. Consequently, my boss was very angry and disappointed because I was not at the place where the meeting was to give my report at 8:30. When I put my report in the copy machine, nothing happened. So I repeated the process again. And as a result of a malfunction, it shredded my report instead of printing it. Since the only copy was at home, I told my boss that I would return back home to get it and have it on his desk in sufficient enough time to submit it to the committee. I had no umbrella and consequently got wet advancing forward as fast as I could to the parking lot to the place where I had parked my car. I decided to change clothes when I returned home. Then as I was hurrying, I bumped the corner of the coffee table and got a run in my stockings. Because my report arrived late, the committee postponed its decision on the project. So another Friday the 13th had passed, and I became one of its victims of bad luck. I decided to retreat back home and try to forget everything that had happened, and also the shredded report. Okay. Now, perhaps you could hear it, but I could definitely feel it. That some of those words, some of the sentences were just too long and too wordy and a little bit hard to read and to get into one breath. That could tell me that that needs a little bit of work. So let's take a look at the finished work. Let's take a look at the more reduced, the better work. Okay, here it goes. It was Friday and I was looking forward to the weekend to relax. Despite some grey clouds in the sky, I left my umbrella and raincoat at home. Because of a sudden thunderstorm, there was a bad accident on the road, and I arrived late for work. Consequently, my boss was angry and disappointed because I was not at the 8:30 meeting to give my report. When I put my report in the copy machine, nothing happened. So I tried again, and due to a malfunction, it shredded my report instead of printing it. Since the only other copy was at home, I told my boss that I would return home to get it and have it on his desk in time to submit it to the committee. I had no umbrella and consequently got wet moving as fast as I could to my car in the parking lot. I decided to change clothes when I returned home. Then as I was hurrying, I bumped the corner of the coffee table and got a run in my stockings. Because my report arrived late, the committee postponed its decision on the project. So another Friday the 13th had passed, and I became one of its victims of bad luck. I decided to go home and try to forget everything that happened, including the shredded report. All right. So much easier even to read. Even for me, I could feel it. It was much easier to read, much easier to get through the information. Now, obviously, this is not my writing, and I'm reading it for primarily the third or fourth time, and so it's not super smooth. But I could still tell the difference between the two different texts. So what I want you to do, in order to practice, I'm going to put out a paragraph that I want you to look at, and I want you to take out any verbosity, any long-winded sentences that could be shortened down. And then I also want you to look at any sort of redundant statements or redundant sentences in there, or redundant words that you could just take out and you can just shorten out. Play with it. It doesn't have to be the same as what's in the book. You can change it up and make it more clear to read and to do. And let's see how you get on, and let me know. Now, one last thing I'm going to mention this week in terms of writing, and this is specifically for my non-English students, my Koreans. Okay, let's talk about names, and I've just written a name on the board. It's not of anyone that I know, but here's a name, a Korean name, Kim Shin-woo. Okay, Kim Shin-woo. And how you would write it in English would be, well, it depends. So here we can have Kim, or you can have, for me, if I see this, I would read it as Gim, but it's up to you. And then Shin, and then we have the other word. Let's say this is how students spell. This is how students write them. So Kim Shin Woo, right? Now, there are tons of different ways that people can write them, and I'll show you the different ways. Let's say I'm gonna go for this, because this is usually how I write Kim. So some people can say like this: Kim Shin Woo, or Shin Woo Kim, or Kim Shin Woo, like that, or like this, or Kim Shin, what was it? No, I've already written it actually. Oh, I think those are the only ones. Or here, maybe without a capital. Now, the reason why I'm writing all of these is because I've noticed that some of you or actually most of you are writing your names in different ways. So I wanted to clarify the mystery behind it. Certainly, if you are living, working, studying in a Western country, I think it would just make sense for you to put first name, so Shinwoo, last name, Kim. Right. If you are in a Western country, then I would say go with the first name, last name way of writing. However, if you are in Asia or you are in your country, then write the way it sounds, the way that you write it in your language. Write your last name, like we're in Korea right now, so write your last name or your family name first, and then your first name. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is just also the way that you write your name makes kind of, it dictates how somebody's going to read it. If you write it like this, Kim, Shin, Woo, right? Now, to me, this is what it looks like. Because I know Korean, I know that this is a last name. However, to somebody who doesn't know Korean, they might think your name is Kim, your middle name is Shin, and your last name is Woo. Alright? So you've got to bear that in mind, who is the audience that you're writing to, and how you should say it. Now, I read some information. If you're going to publish a journal, a paper, then you do need to really consider this, and you do need to consider to where you're publishing and who your audience will be so that you can determine how you should write your name. However, you guys are students, you're writing amongst each other, so I would keep the way that you write it in Korean, keep it in the same way that you write it in English. But when it comes to your first name, you need to have a think about it. If you put a space between your two names, it really does give it the essence that your name is Shin and Woo is your middle name. But that is not the case. So therefore, you need to consider how you're going to put it. Now, sometimes it's all to do with readability. Sometimes I put a dash so that I know that it's one name. So that I put it like this so that I know that it's one name that I'm reading. It goes together, Shin, Woo, alright? Or if it's easy to read, I don't need to put in a dash and I put it as one word. What I mean by this is, for example, somebody's name is I don't even know if this is a real name, but let's just pretend Eunbin. Is Eunbin a name? Or Eunha a name? Ha a name. Now, when I write it in English, I usually write E-U-N, Eunha, and then I put a dash, H-A. I can't remember if I put a capital letter. Do you put a capital letter or no capital letter? If you put a dash, I can't remember if you put a capital letter or no capital letter. I'll check that out if you put a capital letter or no capital letter. But I would write it like that just to make it easier. However, if I'm writing Eunji, I would kind of no capital. Okay, so you confirmed you don't put a capital. I would write it like that because it's not too bad to read. So I would take a look at the readability. Other names. What's another name that's really difficult if you put it together? If I could, I don't know why I can't. Oh, something with il. What's a name with il? What's a name that has il at the end? One of my students' name is Hangyo. Han. You can put it like this, Hangyo, but sometimes I think it's easier if I put it like this, Hangyo. If I break it, then I know how to read it a little bit more clearly. Another student of mine is Hiso. He, and then I put it dash so. Or you can put it, but it's not as easy to read if you put it all together, because remember, as a native speaker, I'm going to be joining all the words. Another one of my students is Minjin. Minjin. I usually find it if two consonants are together, it's easier for me to read them. I won't make that mistakes. But if there's a lot of vowel sounds and there's not another consonant there that can help me to break it up, I do find it a little bit hard. So what I would say is choose a way that you're going to spell your name in English, all right? There are guidelines for how you should translate or your Korean name into English characters. Choose a way, think about the readability, think about your audience so that you can choose the order of writing your name, because I have seen it. Some of you are spelling your name with the last name and then your first name. Some of you are spelling your first name and then your last name. I think it would be good if we all had the same way. So what I would say is stick to the order that you write, because you are in Korea and you're writing to a Korean audience. So stick to the way that you write your name. And then definitely consider the readability. If your name is difficult, if there are lots of vowel sounds, maybe consider putting in a dash so that people can read it together. Don't leave a space, because it may indicate that's your middle name, that only the first name is your name and then the next name is your middle name. So think a little bit about your name, how you're going to spell it and how clearly it is for somebody who is speaking English, who can be able to read it. And then the other thing is, make sure that your name has a capital letter. I saw this and I was like, why? It's your name. Family name should have a capital letter, and also your first name should have a capital letter. Like I said, though you just checked it, if you put a dash, it doesn't need a capital letter afterwards. You can leave it out. Definitely, so you wouldn't do this. So this would not be go. This is yes. This also is a yes. This is the same thing as this, right? This is just a different order. These two are yes, but here I wouldn't say no, and this one I would say no. I hope it does make sense. If you are unsure about how to write your name, maybe send me a message and ask me how to write your name in English. You really do need to think about it. Really do need to think about the order. It's something really small, but it does stand out, especially in your emails. Some of you just didn't even put capital letters in your name, and I was just like, it's your name. It's not even somebody else's name, it's your name. It's not my name. So have a little think about that. What else was I going to talk to you, or what else was I going to mention? I cannot remember from the top of my head. Other than, I do wish you a very good week ahead. I hope that you have a good time. Let me move over here. Let me move over here. In terms of practice, this week I'm gonna give you a bit of practice on verbosity and redundancy, and then I'm also gonna give you a bit of practice on articles as well. I'm hopefully gonna check your work this week so I can give you feedback on your writing pieces. And remember, we're still working on making your paragraphs, right? So don't go too far ahead and start writing some other things. One other thing, before I forget, let me mention this, because some people did get it wrong. Typically in English, when you start a paragraph, leave a little bit of a space, all right? So if this is my paragraph, I'm not going to start on the same line. The first sentence, you need to leave a little bit of space, right? A little bit of an indent in there in order. And then also, even though a paragraph, there's no specific amount of lines, but come on, 3 lines is not really that much of a great paragraph. You can do more. You can do a little bit better than that. So make sure that you have at least 5 sentences. Let's go for at least 5 sentences. And that includes the topic sentence, the conclusion, as well as the supporting details. Another thing to remember is please keep the capital letters. Alright, please keep the capital letters. Please make sure that you keep the capital letters. Please make sure that you proofread your work, because again, it's always the step that people are just like, can't be bothered. So please make sure that you do keep that. And yeah, we'll keep on going. I'll keep on pointing these things out. And you know what? My biggest goal is that you can write a paragraph clearly, because if you can write a paragraph clearly, you can write an essay clearly, all right? And make sure that your paragraph sticks to one idea. One idea, really, really important. Hopefully when I get the time to, next week I'll start talking about your audience as well. Make sure that when you are writing, have an audience in mind and speak to that audience, right? Use the words that are appropriate to that audience. You can kiss it, especially if you're speaking to little kids. Kiss it. Keep it super simple, all right? All of these things are really helpful in the way that you kind of write and in the way that you portray yourself. You know what? One of the biggest secrets that I can say is fake it till you make it, right? Use whatever you can to help you improve your writing. Obviously, don't plagiarize or take other people's ideas, but fake it till you make it. You learn on the way, and I hope that these lessons are helping you out there. Thank you very much for watching the video. See you next time. Bye bye.